Hi, my name is Lila Crow and I'm the Executive Director of the Itasca County Historical Society. And today we are going to share with you what we commonly call show and tell. So I'm going to tell you all about who we are, what we do, what we collect, and what we do with the collection. And hopefully be interesting enough for you so that you can come in and visit with us and that we can share the story of Itasca County Historical Society. So the first thing I'm going to start with is that as you enter into our new building, which is located on Pekegama Avenue, if you haven't seen it, we got beautiful big signs, and the signs are lit up now at night, so you can see that Itasca County Historical Society has their own location. And as you come into the building, the first thing you'll see is our gift shop, and we hope that we can even share a story in that. On First Fridays, we always have an artist, and those artists make product from this area. So our goal at the gift shop is to be able to let you see what local artists make and are willing to sell. So when you come in, you'll see art projects, jewelry, plants. There's the ability for you to see authored books. I consider them artists because there's no way I could ever write a book. So we have local authored books that are in our gift shop. And then you can continue on into the museum. Now, as you enter the museum, a lot of people say, well, how much does it cost? And it's free. So that was made available by Itasca County Commissioners. So if you see a commissioner, thank them for their support for the Historical Society. We went in and talked to them because we're allowed to do that and asked them for $1 a person in Itasca County. And they saw the value of that and are allowing us the $45,000, which we have 45,000 people in Itasca County. We're so excited. So you can come in and enter the museum free. The first thing that you're going to see is our woolly mammoth exhibit. We start with the old and go to the new. Well, really not new yet, but it will become new to you, but old to other people. The woolly mammoth exhibit is pretty awesome. It was found at what we remember as Brink Sand and Gravel, and now is owned by the Hawkinson Company. And it was really interesting. The men that found it, they said they were pulling out some sand, which they hit the bottom of this big, huge, I call it a cavern when I went out to look at it, and something fell to the ground. And one of them turned to the other guy and he said, oh, it's just a branch. And he said, no, that didn't look quite like a branch to him. So he went over and picked it up, and he knew right away it wasn't a branch. It weighed 40 pounds. That's a lot of weight for something that's about 2 feet long. So he knew he had something. And they actually closed down the sand pit for 3 days because they called the Science Museum and they said, well, we might have to do a dig up there. Didn't know quite what they were going to do, but after 3 days, a company called the Science Museum and said, we're losing business here, we have got to. And they said, don't worry about it, you go ahead, because they knew it was a woolly mammoth tusk. But the mystery to them was it was so far north, they'd never found something up this way. So it was about 6 months later, we got another phone call and they said, we found another tusk. And I said, you gotta be kidding, we just went through one. And sure enough, there was another one. And the first one had gone down to the Science Museum because they needed to preserve it. The second one, the Science Museum told me that we could do it on our own. So we created a box with sand, and it had wet sand in it, and we let it dry out for about a year. Then we had it tested and found out that it was a male and female. They were approximately in their 20s. They figured the male was about 22 years old. He was on his second set of teeth. Woolly mammoths go through 6 sets. And the female, we didn't get as much information because we had it up here and they knew that it was a female as they looked at it. So we like to tell that story, that this far north in Itasca County there was a pair that were traveling. It'd be so awesome to know if they had kids, so we let people dream about that. But we had John Schroeder from Schroeder Log Home Supply to paint our woolly mammoth, and he's so cute. So you'll have to come and see him. He's just adorable on the wall. And we're going to have a contest to name him. As you travel on further in the museum, you're going to see little exhibits, because that's what we say here, is that we tell stories, and lots of stories. So the state bank one is going to be up only for this year, but most of ours are what we call semi-permanent, meaning that they're going to be on a display for quite a while. The picture Grace will probably always be on display. We'll change it a little bit. The Indian story, the Ojibwe, that one is something that we want to, in the future, to change just a little bit. We don't really tell the full story of the Indian. The Judy Garland, we call it Frances Ethel Gum exhibit, that one will always be on display. We've changed it probably 3 times in 10 years. So that one is called a semi-permanent, but changes as different donations come in. What's really interesting on that one is we do have the original cradle that their family had used when she was little, her dad's golf clubs that he used at the Pekegama golf course. So we have some original artifacts that you'll be able to see when you come in. Going on further, we have now a Grand Rapids High School Indian exhibit. And you'll just love that. If you went to school here and were a Grand Rapids Indian, we have had so many people bring us in their buttons and their jackets. We have the original cheerleading costumes, and we have put that up now as what we prefer to call it as a semi-permanent exhibit. Barns, oh my goodness, we are collecting as much as we can on barns. So if your family had a barn, if you have a barn picture, we would love to see that. The barns are disappearing, and with that disappearance, the memories that we have, we want to tell that story, to maintain those memories. There's so many people that remember going in the barn. They remember the smell. They remember up in the hayloft, playing games in the barn. All those memories in the barns are falling apart. I had somebody tell me one time, boy, 100 years from now, everybody's going to wonder who Martin is. And I just thought, well, you know, that's a lot. The Morton barns have taken over. Those big red barns, the big white barns are disappearing, made out of the wood. So in order to capture that, we have pictures, we have some wood from some old barns, some artifacts inside barns. So if you have something like that, that is really of interest to us. And then of course every year we change out the ordinary people. Last year we had NHL, and those actually are on display at the courthouse at our exhibit there. Bill Baker's up the month of March, and then after that will be Mike Antonievich, John Casey, and Mike Peluso. So that exhibit changes every 3 months, and now our ordinary people is Itasca Cooks. So if you remember what I call Roy and Dots out of Cohasset, we tell their story. It's awesome. And we also tell Helen, what she was known as Big Helen, Jazinovich from the Keewatin Nashwauk. We tell her story, and it's just awesome when you learn about these cooks that really had raised their families here, were really strong women, especially that led their children. Helen had 4 sons, all 4 of them were school teachers, very strong young men that grew up very, very poor, but she was very determined that they would get a college education. So we tell that story. Cookbooks. Oh my goodness, we have just a ton of cookbooks that we collect. And people go, you collect cookbooks? And I said, oh, they tell a story like you would not believe. In the cookbooks is all the people's names that donated their recipes, and each recipe is quite different, tells a story of its own. I don't know if you ever remember, well, my grandma, she always said, well, you just put in a pinch of this or a pinch of that. And we always said, she doesn't ever measure. Well, that's a story to tell in itself. They didn't have measuring. They were lucky to have a spoon. They were lucky to have a cup. So sometimes that hand was the only thing reached down in that flour bin and pull out a fistful of flour and throw it in, and as they kneaded the bread, oh, it needed some more, just reach in for some more. So lifestyles have changed, and we like to tell that story. Now, once you get through the museum, you enter into the Cardula Research Center. So we want to tell you just a little bit about the Cardulas. If you were to say it in the Finnish, and I don't quite say it the right way, it's the Karhilas that came here from Finland. They were a brother and a sister, and we tell their story. They settled in the Trout Lake Township area, and what's so interesting is they were milk farmers. Oh my goodness. They had cattle, and they milked every day. They sold their product, and when both of them deceased, they left $1.2 million to our community, which is pretty awesome for milk farmers in Itasca County. It's something that is a legacy to tell. when they were in the 90s, they went on a tour with the Historical Society, a history tour. And on that tour were a couple of gentlemen that they had decided to go along too, and they started talking. And both the Karhilas had said they would really like to leave a legacy in this area. They'd like to know what they could do to help support the Historical Society. And that's what they did. The 1.2 was separated between a whole bunch of different groups, and we have an endowment that's called the Karhila Endowment of $100,000. That money has enabled us to really develop our Karhila Research Center. Over the last 10 years, it's been awesome. So we have people coming in every single day to do research on their family, on their businesses, and we'll tell you just a little bit about that later. But as the Karhilas had given us that money, lived in this area, just the other day we had donated to us 2 of her dresses, her pair of work boots, and a scrapbook. So now we have pictures. We're telling a little bit more about their story of how actually they lived, which they didn't consider poorly, but they like to travel in northern Minnesota. So after they set up the endowment and their W-9s were coming in, they came from banks all over northern Minnesota, kept coming in, and the accountant said, what's going on here? And he said, oh yeah, we just like to travel, and we come into a town and see a bank and just put some money in, just deposit some money in the bank. Well, in show and tell, when I tell people things, we like to tell another story about us as a historical society, and in that is how we collect, what we collect. So we're going to start in my show and tell box and tell you a little bit about, first of all, some books so that you understand that in writing our story, we have lots of books. And I know you're probably not going to be able to see, but I have to have something in my hands to tell. And there is going to be some slides shown during this whole thing. You'll see a little bit, and it'll be periodically, so it gives you a little break from looking at me all day. But anyway, I'll tell you a little bit. We have Odds and Ends of Itasca County. This book has lots of short stories in it, just taking a person in their life and just telling that story. And it is so cool. It's full of 22 different stories, murder mysteries, about ghosts, about people that came to our area and started a business, why they started a business, and what they did with their life. This is so much fun. We call it a table topic book. So you can just set it on your coffee table and pick it up and just read a couple of short stories and laugh or cry, whichever. They were written by Brian Broman, who is a professor out at ICC, and he loved to just come in and get into a research file and read it and say, there's a story to tell, and then he would write it up. In our collection, we have a lot of books that tell about areas. So this one here I just picked up, I carry it with me. It's a history of Arbo Township, 1907 to 2007. What's interesting about a township book is it tells local people's lives. Usually tells about their family, what they did in those townships, how the township grew. A lot of people don't realize that townships used to have baseball teams, which is so cool. We actually have a couple of their baseball bats and some t-shirts from townships, and then they would compete against each other. And today, you know, the baseball team is Little League and stuff like that, but people don't remember that back then, the little communities would get together and have a baseball team. And then the next community would find out, so then they had to play against each other. And it used to get kind of competitive sometimes, so that was kind of fun to learn. Another book is called Looking Back the Early Years. This one here was made with the Grand Rapids Herald Review. They went down into our collection of original photographs and scanned them and then put them in a book. And what's interesting is when we edited this book, I was really fresh and new on the job. I've been here for 14 years, but I didn't realize what was in our collection at that time. You know, you look at the old pictures and it's kind of fun. But they produced a book, and we got the book back and we looked in there, and there was one picture in there that said Calumet Fire. And I asked everybody, I said, we didn't have a fire at Calumet. I kept looking at that picture. I said, Calumet to me, you know, you kind of have to go up a hill. You know, even the parades, they had to go up and down that hill. And just any way you looked at it, Calumet had a hill, and this one was flat. So finally we put Calumet into the computer and found out it's Calumet, Michigan. And they had this, horrendous fire. And the picture that we had, the people were coming across, so you know what we did? We packaged up that picture and sent it to Calumet, said, here's one of your pictures from there. So every time somebody would get that book, I'll get this phone call. There's this picture in here of Calumet. Just doesn't look like Calumet. So we have to tell them it's not our picture. But now you know sometimes when pictures come in, it's a little bit hard sometimes to kind of decipher, and we have to do lots of research sometimes on pictures. A couple more table topic books. This one here is called Grand Rapids Companion, and it was written when Grand Rapids turned 100. We have most of all the communities when they turned 100, they either wrote a book or they put together a CD. So we do have those, and some of them are already sold out and not available anymore, but we keep them in the Historical Society here in the Research Center so that people can come in and look at them when they want. The Grand Rapids Companion is definitely a table topic book. It's very thick. It's full of stories of every subject you could think of in this area. Awesome book, and we do have some more of those available in the gift shop. The Picture Grace, I just did a series on Picture Grace. I speak about it in different places, but we do sell the picture in the gift shop, and we do also have a book on the Picture Grace, which we've had to change just a little bit because since the book was written, we found a little bit more detail, especially about Charles Weldon, so we will be changing that shortly. What we collect. And the reason why I put on gloves is because we do have some items that we collect, and I'm going to have fun with you today because what I did is I pulled out a couple envelopes that I don't even know what's in them, because I thought that'd be kind of fun just to talk about that part. But this envelope I do know. So as the items come into our collection, we collect a lot of books. I just tell people, just don't throw it away. Bring it to us and then we'll take care of it. I'll find a home for it somewhere. This here is a Community Presbyterian Church, their directory. This one here is the history of the Rotary Club. Now, clubs in our area, which is really interesting, is that we are like the historian collector of club material. So we have the Rotary Club, we have the Grand Rapids Women's Club, and we have the AAUW, a whole bunch of groups. And then, especially if a club disbands, they will bring us their history. So we have the total collection of the Swedish club that was in existence for many, many, many years. And then they just felt like they were getting too old and didn't know what to do with their history, brought it to us, and we've actually had people come in and look at those books because the Swedish club was very active in this area. The Rotary Club, of course, there's two of them here, and when they have anything to do with historic, they have their own shelf now because it's so big that they have brought to us. We collect artifacts. This is a couple. Something that no longer, I mean, it's really hard to find, is an ashtray. This one here is from the King Lumber Company. It says King Lumber Company, Grand Rapids. So we collect artifacts that have business names throughout the county. This one here is Paul's Service Garage, which no longer exists, and King doesn't either. And this one here is a ruler from Calumet, Minnesota. Now these items are in really, really good shape, and not long ago we had a yardstick exhibit, and there was 25 yardsticks from different businesses here that they used to give out to their people. When you went in there and you became a customer, they would give out a little artifact for you. So we tell people, don't throw them away, bring them into us, and that we can now, in Calumet, when we tell a story about Calumet, we can pull this out and tell and show an artifact from this business that used to be in Calumet. So now, those are some that travel with me. So we're going to show you a couple more from a different box. Okay, so when people walk in the door, especially now that they know where we're located, it's been just awesome. We have an assessing group and a policy in place where when you donate something to Historical Society, 10 people meet once a month and they go over that collection to see if it's something that we can use in telling our story. It must be from Itasca County. If not, I have a lot of things that come to us from Hill City, which is in Aiken County. I have a lot that comes from Bemidji area. We as historical societies work together. So I make sure if it's something that is from those other counties, we visit each other quite a bit so I can spread it out. So what I did is I went and picked up one of the envelopes that my group actually this week, or whenever this film is done, once a month, I just went and picked up a packet. I don't know what this is, don't know who it's from. So we're gonna just have a little bit of fun. So first thing they do when they come in, they have to fill out a donation slip, and this donation slip is to tell us that they are giving us permission to either put it in the collection, and this person here has written that if not accepted, if we do not accept the items, that they will pick them up. So in other words, they will take care of it themselves. So I'm just going to pick up a couple of things here. This one here is Deer River High School Warriors, class of 1946. Oh, this is awesome for us. The one thing that we ask everybody when they bring us some items is that if possible, if you know who the people are that's in the picture, to give us identification. And these are awesome. These two pictures, this one here is the class of the 50th class reunion of 1946. And this one here, oh, isn't this awesome? We got the pictures. The original pictures are here. Okay, she is giving to us a First National Bank of Coleraine, a calendar from 2013, and there's no writing in it, which is really, really nice, but there is some that we do take with writing in it too. We have gotten, because some of these calendars are like a diary to somebody, where they went, who they visit with. That's really cool. We love to do that kind of thing. Taste from the Country, from the folks of Spang Community. Oh, another cookbook. I get so excited. Anyway, so something like this, we check first to see if we have it in the collection, and if we don't, then the cookbooks we will accept, because this has all kinds of people's names from this area. And hopefully it will tell us a little bit about the Spang area, which is kind of in the southwestern corner of Itasca County. And actually, this is really nice. We will keep this in our collection, and people that come in can look for that. Here's a book, For God and Country and Family, Poems from My Heart, William Adams. So what I do first is I look to see where he would be from. It says he is in the military police. He is very much into military. So I'm going to have to ask the person that donated why she thinks that this would be important to us here in Itasca County, because we do collect as many authored books as we can. We collect them, and this one here so far hasn't said anything about where he's from. So that we'll have to investigate. So that's what we do too. We love to do that. It's like a mystery. We got to solve all kinds of mysteries here. And it says, here's another one, Musings of a Damsel, Reflections of a Crone. That's really interesting. So we'll have to find out on these, where they come from. This one here is A Bear Guardian. So that one I don't know. So that person, okay, here's really cool. This one here I know was put together by the Herald Review and the Manny Shopper, and it's attractions menu. So in something like this is really interesting to us because Herald Review did it. So we know that it's local, that part, because I don't know about the books, but we do know that this is local. And it's full of things. First of all, it has a year on it, which is good. 2013, 2014. Years are very important. You know, calendars are good because it's got a year on there. But there's other things that come in here we have no idea. Maps. We really struggle sometimes with maps because they don't have a year on them. But this one here actually, and somebody said, well, why in the world is it published 2013, 2014? Well, this one here I know we'll say yes to because it'll be put into our collection. So let's just imagine 50 years from now, somebody looking back, and they go through and they say, you know what, my grandparents were in Grand Rapids in 2014. What was there? What did Grand Rapids? I mean, it's totally changed. So something like this we can pull out. Not only does it have businesses on it, but it has listed the churches, dining, lodging. I mean, this whole thing can tell anybody in the future a story of what happened here. And I would say even more so Grand Rapids, but Itasca County, because there's attractions and events, like a calendar of what happens all over. Big Fork, Nashwauk, all over in that area, so you can see a lot just from one piece of paper. So to us this is important. We get several of these, I know, so what we do is we collect the one that's in the best shape is what we see. I always tell people the one that's in the best shape. Oh my goodness, there's something else in here, I can feel it. This one here is 2013, and it actually covers a lot, but it is a calendar, and it very specifically says Lake Country Power. So as the other one said the bank, this one here says Lake Country Power. So I know they'll say yes to this one too, because it has a different name on it, and it is a business. And Lake Country Power actually covers a huge territory, so I know it covers a lot in Itasca County. Okay, so I went and grabbed another envelope because I got a box in the mail. It's like Christmas around here sometimes because we get it in the mail. And I wasn't here. I had a whole bunch of things going on, so I just told somebody a box came in the mail. And it happened to be Jeremy that works here part-time. He was so excited. He was supposed to leave, actually. He was off. And he said, I gotta open this box. We get so intrigued with what's sent to us. So he opened the box, and I could hear him going, oh. So I don't know exactly what was in that box, so I went and got this. First of all, they have their form, so it's here again. Here's the signed form, and this one here is unconditional, so it means that she is giving it, this person is giving it from Coon Rapids, Minnesota. She sent it to us in the mail. She's giving it to us to do with whatever we want. So, here we go. First one. This one here is a Greenway High School class of 1937. Oh my. It has a picture of the school, and it has a picture of Kurt from 1938. In this is the diploma. Oh, isn't this awesome? Oh, this is so cool. It has all kinds of signatures of who was like the superintendent, the principal, and then on the back, it has all the ones that graduated in 1937. This is awesome. This is totally awesome. So when it comes before that assessing group, we all look at it, and then it is cleaned, and we'll be put with, we have a whole section just on high schools. So this will be in the Greenway High School. This is a class of 1941, so we have a 37 and a 41. And now, this is what's really cool, is that this is a diploma, has a hard cover to it. It's from Greenway, and this one here, which is 4 years before, is made out of leather. So this is really wonderful for us. We can, when we talk about Greenway and talk about their school, we can show even in 4 years the difference, and I do know that we even have some current ones, so we can show a whole story of how the diplomas have changed through what I call the decades. We can probably pull several of those. Here is one from the junior high school diploma. So this one here, of course, you know, lower ages and as sophisticated as the upper ones, but it's really cool too. Oh my, it's even colored. This is awesome. From Coleraine, 1934. Oh, see, it's like Christmas around here, let me tell you. Okay, this is interesting. Now this is something that's not from Itasca County, and I can tell right now that it is something that was probably generic throughout the United States, but you're not gonna believe this. This is like a treasure to me, and you're gonna say, why, it's not Itasca County. Well, we have a young man that is going for his Eagle Award, and for his Eagle Award, you know, they always have to do a project, so he comes in here and he's researching Boy Scouts of Itasca County, and he wants to tell their story. So what perfect example is a book like this, because I know that the Boy Scouts, oh, let me see, I can't remember what year it was, went to Washington for the Jamboree, which is really rare. It costs a lot of money to go to there. They went, and now he'll have a book that is just going to tell the story of Jamborees in Washington. Oh, this is awesome. You think, oh my goodness, this girl is really strange. No, I'm really not. I just get too excited. Okay, here is a Oberon, must be college, 1940. Oh my. So this is something that we probably will not keep in the collection. This is done from a college, and what we do then is we find out where this college is. Printed, it looks like it might be from New York. It was founded in 1833, and that was the name of the man. So what I will do then is send my investigating team, and they will go on the internet and find out where this is at, so we can send this calendar to that college or to the Historical Society where the college is located. So we don't throw it away because, oh my goodness, this is awesome. It's in wonderful shape. It's black and white. And even if the college still has theirs, possibility the local Historical Society might not. So that's what we do, is we send those off, which sometimes costs us a little bit of money, but you know what? It's really well worth it because we don't want to destroy that story that's there. Oh my, this looks like a scrapbook. Now we have scrapbooks dedicated to Miss Estelle Hammerland and Miss Grace Anderson by John Miller. Aviation. Oh my, he's telling a story here. Now, the chances of us collecting or keeping this are pretty slim, because I can tell right away that it's telling the story of aviation throughout the United States. So something like this, because it's not Itasca County, and I can't directly put it to another historical society, we will probably put into our gift shop and ask for a donation for it. You know, somebody gave me $1 for it, that would be really cool. But I also know of a young man that loves airplanes, and it would be really cool if he could do something like this and maybe do a book report on it. Something, you know, so that it isn't lost, but, you know, we're all about stories. So that'd be kind of fun. So, oh, here's another one, a scrapbook. John Miller. Oh, wow, Greenway High School basketball squad, 1938-39. Oh, what a treasure. Oh, this is so cool. It has black and white pictures. Of course, you know, back then everything was black and white. There's no color. And they actually identify 2 in here, which possibly in the yearbook we might find some more. Here's a picture of the school in Coleraine. That's excellent. It actually is a different whole view. It's not just, well, that is wonderful. Oh, so for us, this here is just a treasure. Now, as a scrapbook, we have a gentleman that's a volunteer, because we operate mostly on volunteers. We give him all of our scrapbooks that come in. Because people didn't know back then that the paper, I don't know if you can tell, but the paper is yellow, and that means that it's burning. It's an acid that's in that paper. And for us, it's really important to keep the information or the pictures out of the scrapbook, but we need to remove them from the acid because eventually it eats them up. And I know if you've opened up an old scrapbook, you're at your grandmother's and you open it up and you see the stuff that's getting on each of the pictures, that means it's being eaten by the acid. And it's really important to remove that so you can preserve it. So we have a gentleman that actually, it is so cool. He has a little heater that he heats up the paper and it melts the glue that's behind him. Or sometimes he has to take a knife, or sometimes it's not preserved good enough. We have to actually copy it so that we can get that message. We want the story that's in there. So I would say this package has been just like a gold mine. Came in the mail, and like I said, it's Christmas in a box. Now I'd like to tell you a little bit about how the Historical Society works. We are a nonprofit, and I'm sure you've heard the numbers 501c3. That is what we are, a 501c3 corporation. And we have a board of directors. There's 12 members. One of the things in our bylaws that we have is that we need representation from the whole Itasca County, not just what you would consider the largest city, Grand Rapids. So I'm going to tell you a little story and then kind of go from there. Back in 1891, when Grand Rapids became Grand Rapids, La Prairie, which is just like a mile away, and Grand Rapids had this battle. It was a competition to get down to the Aiken Courthouse in order to register where the county seat would be in Itasca County. So 2 men started out. Now, the stories that we have, sometimes a little bit conflicting, but they did not take the steamboats. They were walking by foot. So, now, imagine, it's 50 miles away, and both city councils, La Prairie had registered themselves, Grand Rapids had registered them, and they really wanted that seat. So they sent their guys out to see who would get there, and honest to goodness, the guy from Grand Rapids registered first. Now, we don't have what happened between here and there. I personally think a deal was made, but you know, what can you say? It was back in 1891, and it was in the summertime, because they couldn't do that much traveling in the wintertime. And our town only had about 300 people in it. La Prairie, I can't get their exact population at that time, but I don't think it was as many. Personally, I don't think it was. We try, like the census, which was taken in 1890, and then again in 1900, so you kind of can see the difference. Because what happened is, once it was registered as a county seat in this area, Grand Rapids just kind of exploded. And a lot of buildings that were in La Prairie moved over here to Grand Rapids. So it became the county seat. But at that time, it was a huge county. Our county went way up north. So I'm really glad at our size that we have now, because traveling from one end of the county to the other end at one point is about 80 miles. So for us to have that much, and we had 3 commissioners, or 4 commissioners. We had 4 commissioners, 4 county commissioners. But at one point, the county commissioners had a battle of 2 and 2 against each other. And the governor stepped in and appointed the 5th commissioner. And the reason why I tell you this little story is because something happened last night in Harris Township at their annual meeting, which to me was pretty awesome. So I got to go to the meeting, and this is one that they let me have an opportunity to speak. And Commissioner Rusty Eichhorn was the one that was leading the meeting. He lives in Harris Township. And it was so funny because they give me 5 minutes, but last night I got 8. I was sneaky. I got 8 minutes in, which was fun. They did their annual report, and they had held an election yesterday. And one of the things on the election, they held the office, they were for a clerk and for a supervisor, but there was also a question on there if the Harris Township people wanted to go from 3 supervisors to 5. Now that's kind of like unheard of up here. 3 is the main ones. So what was really interesting in the Harris Township meeting last night was that when the people voted, they voted from 3 supervisors to 5. So that's going to make an interesting kind of comparison, because Harris Township is quite large. Well, Itasca County, way back then, when it had 2 and 2, and the governor stepped in and appointed Mr. King from Deer River to come in. Now, he took that job very, very serious. In the whole county, it changed everything that we did. He came on and he designed our road system. A lot of people don't understand that in Itasca County back in those days, when you had a buggy and a horse and going down what you thought was a road and you hit so many ruts. When the automobiles came in, it was horrible. They had more flat tires. You always had to carry along a tire kit in order to repair all of your tires. But he designed our road system that exists even today. So when you come in, we can tell you when the road started to change, when he designed it, according to a maps, and that helps us to date. Like I was talking earlier, it's something that has been missing from the maps are those dates. Anyway, when the Historical Society started in 1948, they decided in their bylaws that they would cover all 5 commission areas. So on our board of directors, we have 1 from each of the 5, at least 1 from each of the 5. Right now, the lowest account one is actually from Grand Rapids. We have 2 from Commission District number 2. We have 4 from Commission number 1. Commission number 3, we have 2. So that's 7. So number 3, yeah, Grand Rapids is number 3. So in that representation then represents the whole county. So those people represent their neighborhoods in each area. So we have 1 from the Nashwauk-Keewatin area. So when we did our Ordinary People, she was the one that went out and did all of the research for the Helen Jazinovich exhibit. We've had a lot of the barns, the people, they tour their own neighborhoods, they travel these roads. And we meet once a month, and we have one that actually travels 60 miles for the board meeting. He is our secretary, and it's just awesome the commitment that they have. And talking about that commitment, our volunteers are probably the most committed people that I've ever known. It has been just awesome. On Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays, we have volunteer genealogists that come in. So when you're researching their family, you can come in during that time from 1 to 4, and they will show you how to research our research center. They will help you with Ancestry.com on the computer. They will show you what websites you can go to find out about yourself and about your family, which is awesome. And that's been a commitment now for 3 years that we've had genealogists here from noon to 4. Volunteer Tuesday, well, that's what we call it, Volunteer Tuesday, but it ends up that it's Volunteer Tuesday and Thursday. They come in and help us with building exhibits, doing research to make those exhibits. Also, now it's really important because we're in our new building. We have what's called our archival storage, which is in the lower level of this building. That's what I tell people, the main reason why we moved into this building is because of the basement. It's a poured area. It is totally dry. And what we've done is gone after a legacy grant from Minnesota Historical Society in order to put in the equipment to keep it dry and to keep the humidity at 1 level. So we applied for a grant last fall, and we were awarded that in December, a $63,000 grant, and the equipment is just now moving in. Now we're going to move in the artifacts. We have over 50,000 artifacts in another location. So the months of March and April, we will be looking for volunteers to help us with the big move, is what I call it. It's so cool because all the things that we have are mostly archived stored. We've done that the last 10 years. So when we pull out Commissioner Shirley Jokinen, she was a commissioner for 12 years, we pull out her wedding dress that they donated to us. Absolutely gorgeous dress. It is archivally stored until we pull it out, and then it's archivally stored again because we would really like that dress. She was married in the 60s. It's a satin, ivory satin, and it's just beautiful. At the last time it was out, we had it steamed and took all the wrinkles out, and it's just a beautiful dress. So when we do, hopefully coming up soon, we want to do an afternoon tea, and bring out our wedding dresses showing each decade and how they changed from a black wedding dress in the 1800s all the way up to our latest dress that was given to us in the 2000s. So that'll be such a cool thing that we can do. Also in that storage, we have furniture. When we started out, we had 64 chairs, and we realized that 64 chairs was just a tad bit much to tell a story. So we went through those chairs and decided that in looking at them, if they were not identified, because we had a lot of stuff that was just dropped off for us, it didn't have a number, that they were gone. But we kept 12 chairs, and one of the chairs is a rocking chair that was in Van Dyke's office over at Greenway. The cutest little rocking chair in the world. So with this donation that I showed you earlier on Greenway, and we do a Greenway exhibit, we'll be able to pull that chair out and talk about Van Dyke, who a school was named after him, his story. It's going to be awesome. So those artifacts, every single artifact that we have, we can tell a story with it, and it is an Itasca County story. So we'd like to tell you a little bit more about what we do here. In our collecting, we, as I said earlier, have collecting. One of the most prized collections that we have is pictures. And I want to tell you a story. Last week, we had a lady come in. She came in the door and she said, you know what? I talked to you about a year ago, and I found this suitcase of pictures. And I said, a suitcase of pictures? Oh no, that would be a lot of pictures. But it was so cute. She brought it in. It was this old suitcase, and we figured it had to have been from at least the 20s or 30s. It was that old, and it was little. And she opened it up, and it was filled with all kinds of different envelopes, and she had separated them all out. And she started putting them on the table, and she started talking, and it was so neat just to hear her stories. And she was laying out all these and talking about the people, and finally I said, okay, I'm going to go through these with you just a little bit because I want to connect them with Itasca County. By the time we were done, we now have a collection of pictures from what we call Craig. If you know about Craig, it was called Craigville. It had, at its roaring time, 24 bars. It had a madam. And of course, for the sheriff to get there was really difficult, so all the loggers loved that town. When they came off from the logging in the wintertime, that's where they hit, is what we call Craigville. But we have very few pictures of that area, and sure enough, she had a whole bunch. The Craigville, well, Craig Sawmill, she had a lot on Effie. By the time we were done, I collected from her 80 pictures. That's a lot of pictures, but they're all going to tell a story about that area, which we were missing. It was not part of our collection. So that is the awesome part, is she came in, and right away we have a volunteer that's here about 30 hours a week, and she is learning a new skill. She is scanning them, so we're going to digitize them, and then we put them on a sheet, and she's actually going to come back in here so that we make sure that all of our identifications are correct on those pictures. So it's a big project that we're in, but they'll each get numbered, and then it's entered into our Past Perfect Museum program, so that when somebody comes in here and wants to do a story on sawmills, we put in sawmill, and it'll come right up, and we'll be able to pull that picture and tell that story.